Hi everyone, welcome to 2021. I took a week of filming videos last week, so I have a few things that I want to record and upload soonish, such as this one, my December wrap up, my favourite books of last year, a video where I look at my 2020 New Year's resolutions just so that we can all have a bit of a giggle, and a few other things as well. So today I'm going to be talking to you about my most anticipated books for this year. I normally film this video at the end of December, but at the end of December a lot of publishers didn't have their catalogues available yet, and that's still the case for a lot of places, which is understandable because so many book publication dates were changed last year due to COVID, and I'm sure that'll be the case this year too. So I have had a rummage through the catalogues that are available, which are available to everyone, by the way. I often get asked, how do I know about new releases? Publishers put their catalogues normally 6 to 9 months in advance on their websites, and they're available for anyone to look at. So you can just go to any publisher website, scroll down to the bottom, click on catalogs. So I've had a rummage through the ones that are available, have also been keeping an eye on my favourite authors and what they are up to, and of course, because of my job, I get sent press releases, AI sheets in, I was going to say in the mail, no, via email. So I keep up to date with stuff that way too. For anyone who's new, my name is Jen. Hello, I am an author and a book reviewer, so if you're interested in bookish chat, please do stick around. It would be lovely to have you here. For me personally, in 2021, Franklin and Luna and the Book of Fairy Tales is coming out in paperback. That's the third and probably final book in the Franklin and Luna series that I wrote, which is illustrated by Katie Harnett and published by Thames and Hudson. I will link my books in the description box down below. Then in September, my 10th book is coming out, which I can't talk about yet, even though I really would like to. It is written. It is for 9+ age bracket, but definitely for adults too. I was writing a book that I would enjoy reading right now. It is creepy, it is dark, and I'm not going to talk about it more here, but I will talk about it more in the coming months. I also have work in a few anthologies coming out, including a book of poetry for children, which I think is coming out in August, edited by A.F. Harrold, which is called Poems for 7-Year-Olds. But I'll talk about all of that stuff nearer the time. So let's get into books published by other people that I am very excited about, and I will open up the Word document that I have created. I'm doing these in order of publication. Having said that, my first one on the list though is one that I don't know the publication date for, so I'm just throwing it in at the beginning. I had a look on Tilted Axis Press's website. They are one of my favorite publishers. They publish work in translation. They were set up by Deborah Smith, who translates Han Kang's work, and you can subscribe to their press every year if you would like to, and then they send you everything that they're publishing. I think they're publishing 10 books this year, and I think no, they are publishing 6 books this year, and I think it costs about £60 to sign up, and then they just post everything as they're printed. But one that I have my eye on, which I know nothing about, but it says that they are publishing the debut novel by Korean star of queer fiction Sang-Yong Park, and I have looked at some of his work previously, and I'm excited to hear more about this debut novel. But that's all the information that I have, but that's the one title from theirs that stands out to me the most. I'm always excited to read more about what they're publishing in general. Okay, so in January we have a book that I have a copy of here. Coming out this month is this non-fiction book called Languages Are Good For Us by Sophie Hardach. This is her debut non-fiction, but she has written novels previously. She's worked as a journalist for years. Sophie is actually a friend of mine, so I am biased, but only slightly. I recorded a podcast with her a few years ago where we were talking about language, migration, and history, and how all of those things tangle together. She's just a fascinating person. So go and listen to that podcast if you haven't already. I'll link it in the description box down below. This is a book all about the history of language, about the human capacity to learn different languages and why that's always been important. On the back, it says Sophie Hardach tells wonderful stories about words that have traveled vast distances in space and time to make English what it is. Impeccably researched and engagingly presented, this fascinating book shows how languages arise, grow, borrow, mix, and blend. If you aren't sure what the point of learning another language is, then you need to read this book. And looking at the contents page, there is a chapter called Love in South Shields, and I am from a village right next to South Shields, so I look forward to reading that and also the rest of this book too. Another book by a pal of mine that's coming out this month is The Death of Francis Bacon by Max Porter. Max is the author of Lanny and Grief is a Thing with Feathers. This, as the title suggests, is about the death of Francis Bacon. And this came out, I think, last week or this week. Anyway, you can get your hands on it pretty much now. And this is 7 portraits in words. And I don't think that they're actual portraits that exist, though I may be incorrect. I think that Max is painting each day as Francis Bacon saw it on his deathbed. And I think that that sounds fascinating. Also coming out this month, we have the second short story collection by Caitlin Horrocks called Life Among the Terranauts. I haven't actually read her first collection, but this one sounds brilliant. It says, in the sleep, reprinted in Best American Short Stories, residents of a town in frigid Midwest decide to hibernate through bitter winters. In the title story, half a dozen people move into an experimental biodome for a shot and $1 million. If they can survive for 2 years. And in The Sun City, published in The New Yorker, a young woman meets her grandmother's roommate in the wake of her death and attempts to solve the mystery of whether the two women were lovers. There's a book coming out in February, which sounds like it could be brilliant, but it also sounds like something that I could not like at all. So I'm waiting for a sample to be available so that I can take a look at the writing style and see if it's a book that I would like to purchase. But I'm initially intrigued. It's called The Kitchen Front by Jennifer Ryan, and it's set during the Second World War in the Blitz, and the BBC have launched a cooking contest to help housewives with rationing, and they're asking people to apply, and the winner gets to be the first ever female host of this radio show. And it's about 4 housewives who are competing to win, and I think they're getting up to very devious things. They're trying all kinds of stuff to win the trophy, and I just think that this sounds like it could be brilliant. So I have my fingers crossed on that. In February, the first picture book by Raymond Antrobus is being published called Can Bears Ski? And I think that it's illustrated by Polly Dunbar. Ray is the author of The Perseverance. I really love his work. I've also recorded a podcast with him, which I'll link in the description box down below. This is his first piece of work for kids, and I think it's going to be absolutely brilliant. Then also in February, these 2 books, she says, gracefully leaning over, are being published. This is Bestiary by K-Ming Chang, and it's centered around a Taiwanese myth of generations of women in a family where they grow tiger's tails. I've mentioned it a few times because I was recently sent a proof, so I'll not talk about it more here, but I'm very keen to get to this one. And another one that I received a proof of recently is The Art of Falling by Danielle McLaughlin. I adored her short story collection, Dinosaurs on Other Planets. This one is her debut novel, and this is about Nessa, whose marriage is falling apart. She's setting up an art exhibition, and I think then something happens or is revealed from her past, and that turns her world even more upside down. In March, we have a new novel coming out from Kazuo Ishiguro called Klara and the Sun. I have loved some of Ishiguro's work in the past, such as Never Let Me Go, and I have not loved some of his other work so much. So it's been quite hit or miss, but I'm always very keen to read whatever new book he's bringing out. And this one sounds like it's more in the vein of Never Let Me Go, which excites me very much. It says that the novel tells the story of Klara, an artificial friend with outstanding observational qualities, who, from her place in the store, watches carefully the behaviour of those who come in to browse and of those who pass in the street outside. She remains hopeful a customer may soon choose her, but when the possibility emerges that her circumstances may change forever, Klara is warned not to invest too much in the promise of humans. As I said, I think that sounds great. Also in March, we have a second novel coming out from Elle McNicoll, who is the author of A Kind of Spark, which, spoiler, was one of my favourite books of last year. I'm very excited about this one, which is called Show Us Who You Are. It's about a young girl called Klara who is dragged by her brother to his boss's Christmas party. I think it's a Christmas party? Or it's just a party. Anyway, a party at his boss's house. And she makes friends with her brother's boss's son and learns about their business, which is called Pomegranate Technologies, and she's really into it because it's all about AI and she's very excited by that. She hears that they're making hologram humans, but it says as she digs deeper she uncovers darker secrets, and this book has a host of neurodivergent characters, its own voice, and I think that when she's digging into them using AI, it touches on eugenics and what they're choosing to include in the humans that they are representing and what they are choosing to eradicate. So I'm sure that that is going to be a brilliant book. Then in March also there is a book called Skyward by Aliya Whiteley. I have loved some of Aliya Whiteley's books in the past, and I still have a few that I need to read, and she is so prolific. She has 2 books coming out, so I need to get a move on so that I can read them all. This one sounds mostly like her book The Beauty, in that it is a group of people who are sharing stories about an apocalyptic past, and the Skyward Inn is like an intergalactic inn where travelers can come and rest on their space travels. I just think that that's brilliant. So it's about the innkeepers who run it and the stories that the people tell when they come to stay. And then someone called, oh, they have no name, just a visitor, known to Isley, comes to the inn asking for help, bringing reminders of an unnerving past and triggering an uncertain future. Did humanity really win the war? That question makes me feel really just, oh, it sends shivers down my spine. And then it says that this book is reminiscent of Jeff Vandermeer, Ursula Le Guin, Angela Carter and Michelle Faber, which is quite an impressive list of people to be compared to. Also in March, Unsettled Ground by Claire Fuller is being published. I've read all of her previous books. The blurb of this book sounds a little bit like her first book, Our Endless Numbered Days, in that it is about a family who's living very remotely, and then the children of that family discover things that they always thought to be true are big lies. So this is about a set of twins called Jeannie and Julius. They are 51, they live remotely with their mother who's called Dot. It says in rural isolation and poverty. Inside the walls of their old cottage they make music, and in the garden they grow and sometimes kill everything that they need to survive. But then their mother dies, and then they start discovering things about their pasts, and everything starts to unravel. Coming out a few weeks later in April is The High House by Jessie Greengrass. This is her second novel. Her first novel was called Sight, and she also has a short story collection out as well. This one is a reimagining of the flood in modern day. It is women building an ark. It says Francesca is Caro's stepmother and Paulie's mother. A scientist, she can see what is going to happen. So this is about the climate crisis. In April, there is another non-fiction book about language that is coming out called 50 Sounds by Polly Barton. I believe it's being published by Fitzcarraldo Editions. I've read so many books that Polly Barton has translated. She translates work from Japanese. So I'm really intrigued to read a book that she has written herself. And this is a non-fiction book about translation and about the Japanese language. Sign me up. Coming out in May, we have a new novel that's been translated into English by Kjersti A. Skomsvold, which is translated from the Norwegian by Martin Aitken, and it's called The Child. Her novel, The Faster I Walk, The Smaller I Am, is one of my favourite short novels ever. It's really unsettling, and I'm not sure if she wrote this book during lockdown. It sounds like maybe she did, because it says it is about a young mother speaking to her second born child. Since the drama of childbirth, all feels calm. The world is new and full of surprises, even though dangers lurk behind every corner. A car out of control, disease ever present in the air, the unforgiving speed of time. She tells the times before the child was born, when the world felt unsure and enveloped in darkness, of long nights with an older lover, of her writing career, and the precariousness of beginning a relationship and then a family with her husband Beau. A portrait of modern motherhood, The Child is a love story about what it means to be alive and stay alive no matter how hard the journey. In June, the Tea Dragon Tapestry by Kay O'Neill is being published. This is their third and I think final book in the Tea Dragon Society series. I discovered these at the end of 2020 and loved them so much. The graphic novels are amazing. They're just behind me here actually, let me show you. This is the first one. It is just the most heartwarming book about a group of dragons who grow different flavoured tea from their heads, and then a group of people who look after them and brew this tea, and the tea has magical qualities. It's got such a diverse set of characters. It is so wholesome and wonderful. It made my soul so happy. I have been, I was gonna say slowly, not slowly, in the last month reading everything by K. O'Neill that I could get my hands on, and I've nearly read everything. I think I only have, well, I have the second Tea Dragon Society book to read, but I have read their other graphic novels and their picture books. I need to slow down because otherwise I'll have nothing left to read, and that's just going to be really, really sad. Also in June, we have a debut novel by Nancy Tucker, who was the author of The Time in Between, which was a non-fiction book, a memoir, focusing in on eating disorders. But this is, as I said, her novel, and it's called The First Day of Spring. It's about Chrissy, who knows how to steal sweets from the shop without getting caught, the best hiding place for hide and seek, the perfect wall for handstands. Now she has a new secret. It gives her a fizzing, sherbet feeling in her belly. She doesn't get to feel power like this at home, where food is scarce and attention's scarcer. 15 years later, Julia is working in a fish and chip shop and trying to mother her 5-year-old daughter, Molly. She is always worried about affording food and school shoes, about what other mothers think of her. Most of all, she worries that the social services are about to take her daughter away. That's when the phone calls begin, which Julia is too afraid to answer, because it's clear the caller knows the truth about what happened 15 years ago. And it's time to face that truth. Is forgiveness and redemption ever possible for someone who has killed? I think that sounds great. In August, the poetry anthology that I'm part of, called Poems for 7-Year-Olds, is being published by Picador. Then there's also a new non-fiction book by Jenny Odell. She is the author of How to Do Nothing, which I read last year and loved. It's about social media and the attention economy. This one I know nothing about. I just know that it's coming out in August and that the title is Inhabiting the Negative Space. Also in August, we have Kaveh's new poetry collection, which is very exciting. He is the author of Calling a Wolf a Wolf, which I read whenever it came out. I think it was 3 years ago, maybe, and absolutely adored it. His second collection is called Pilgrim Bell, and it says, with formal virtuosity and ruthless precision, Kaveh's second collection takes its readers on a spiritual journey of disavowal, fiercely attendant to the presence of divinity where artifacts of self and belonging have been shed. This is about asking what you're going to repair about yourself when you're recovering from addiction. What shall I now repair? He responds with a prayer as an act of devotion to dissonance, the infinite void of a loved one's absence, the indulgence of austerity, making a life as a Muslim in an Islamophobic nation, teasing the sacred out of silence and stillness. And then later in the year, in December, he's also releasing a collection with Penguin. Let me just scroll to that. Which, is it December? Maybe November. Yes, called The Penguin Book of Spiritual Verse, which is spanning centuries of poetry, and I'm really excited about that one too. Also in September, we have a new poetry collection by John Burnside. You know that I love his work very much. This one is called Learning to Sleep, and it's exploring ghosts. In September, we have Aliya Whiteley's second book of 2021, and this is a short story collection. I've never read any of her short stories, but her world building is so good. I think this is the one of hers from the 2 that are coming out this year that excites me the most, and it's called From the Neck Up. It says, witness the future of farming in a new ice age, or the artist bringing life to glass, the many-eyed monsters we carry, and the secret cities inside our bodies. Fascinating and always unexpected. Then finally, there are a few books that I know nothing about, but I have read these authors before, so I'm very excited by them. So we have a new Nikki French that's coming out in September. Don't have a title or a synopsis for that, don't care, we'll be reading it. We have Raymond Antrobus's second collection of poetry. As I said, I loved The Perseverance. This one is called All the Names Given. And then we also have my new book, which, as I said, I can't tell you about yet, but I promise that you will, well, can I promise that you will like it? I'm quite confident that you will like it. If you like my other books, you'll like this one too. What a great pitch that was. I promise I will pitch it better when I can tell you actual details about it. So those are all of the books. Well, no, those are some of the books that I'm excited about that are coming out this year. I'm sure that there will be so many more that come onto my radar as the year progresses, especially in the second half of the year, because publishers don't normally release their autumn catalogues until we're getting into springtime. So I'll do another most anticipated releases probably about halfway through the year. I would love to know if you are excited about any of these books, or if there are any other books that are on your radar that you will be purchasing or getting out from the library as soon as they are available. I hope you're all having a good start to the year, which seems like a weird thing to say, but I mean it. I hope that you're all doing okay, and I will be back with a new video very soon. Sending lots of love. Bye.